Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thanks, John.
Yep.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the January 12th River Falls City Council meeting. First thing we'll do is say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Christy, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Bierstead.
Here.
Downing.
Here.
Gagne.
Here.
Morissette.
Here.
Odine.
Here.
Plunkett. Watson. Thank you.
Okay, next we move on to the approval of the minutes from the December 8th regular meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I move for the approval of the minutes from the December 8th meeting.
Second.
Okay, we got a first and a second on the minutes. Any comments on these? Christy, we have first and a second on the meeting minutes from the December 8th.
First by Mr. Watson, second by Bierstead. We'll start the vote with Mr. Plunkett.
Aye.
Odine.
Aye.
Watson.
Aye.
Gagne.
Aye.
Morissette.
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Bierstead.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christy. Okay, next I'll move on to the approval of the bills with Mr. Plunkett.
Mayor, make a motion to approve the bills in the amount of, and I'm looking for it here, I've got an internet out, the 400,000 plus there.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Make a motion, sorry, my internet here is.
Oh, that's okay.
Make a motion to approve the bills in the amount of $432,629.71.
Second.
Okay, got a first and a second, Christy, on the approval of the bills.
First by Mr. Plunkett, second by Mr. Watson. Start the vote with Ms. Odine.
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Morissette.
Aye.
Gagne.
Aye.
Watson.
Aye.
Bierstead.
Aye.
Plunkett. Thank you.
Okay, before we do public comments, I have Allison Souter here today from Big Brothers and Big Sisters who'd like to say a few words. Allison, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Thank you for welcoming me onto your call today. Really just want to say on behalf of Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Northwestern Wisconsin, we really appreciate the council and just the community as a whole, your continued support of all of our mentoring programs that we offer in River Falls, and for helping us, declare National Thank a Mentor Day later in January. We just really appreciate your support. So thank you very much.
Allison, is it okay if I ask the council if anybody has any questions for you?
Sure, yep.
I'm not sure if any of the council members had any questions for Allison about Big Brothers, Big Sisters. No?
Mayor?
Oh, yep. Go ahead, Mr. Dean.
I was just wondering if Allison can tell me how many kids in River Falls are involved in Big Brothers Big Sisters?
Yes, so the good numbers question. So I just joined the agency a couple months ago, so I don't have those memorized off the top of my head yet. But we have a really great partnership with the university and have a Friends program there where we have about 12 kiddos enrolled in that program. And then through additional community-based, I would say we probably have 10 to 15 more young people as littles. And we do have some on the waiting list. So with it being National Mentoring Month, if there are folks listening who would be interested in being a big and making a difference in a young person's life, we are always looking for more bigs.
Can you give people your website address so they can get a hold of you?
Yes, it is bbbsnw.org. So it's Big Brothers Big Sisters Northwest.org.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Allison.
Mayor,
Appreciate it. Oh, yep. Go ahead, Mr.
I've got a
Morissette.
question. Allison, can you talk a little bit about how you have handled the whole COVID situation and how that's I'm sure it's like everybody else impacted how the bigs and the littles interact with each other, and what steps have you taken or has the organization taken to, first of all, keep everybody safe, but second of all, make sure that that connection remains solid?
Absolutely. So right when, things got shut down in March, the agency had to pivot really quickly, and not just Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Northwestern Wisconsin, but, Big Brothers, Big Sisters of America. And so we really followed, guidance and policies regarding not meeting in person. And so we really had to develop, virtual options for our matches to meet, which was not something that had previously even been in our wheelhouse. So we were able to kind of adapt and come up with some really great activities that aren't just, the big and little staring at a screen, but making things and cooking together, watching movies together. And, over the summer, it was a little easier. They could be outside and not have to necessarily be as worried. But now that we're hitting the winter months, it's becoming difficult again in finding opportunities. But we've been really pretty proud of how many matches have really adapted so well and have maintained that consistency for the young people and really made huge efforts to continue to be present in their lives, even though they can't meet in person.
Good. Thanks, Allison. We appreciate everything you guys are doing.
Thank you so much.
And thanks for taking some time tonight to be with us.
Absolutely.
Okay. So from here, we'll move on to public comments. If John, is there anybody at the City Hall?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
We have one gentleman. He's coming up right now. Give me a second.
Okay.
Hold on. And council chambers. Okay.
Hello, my name is Ben Fox, 2529 Powell Avenue. Three quick topics. First is the next weekend, or next Tuesday, the City Council and the Utility Board have a meeting about Powell Dam deconstruction and decommissioning. It's always important to remember that even when they say free money and grants, usually it has significant taxpayer and ratepayer contributions. And it's really important to think about long-term with the problems of accessibility and how you're going to get to that site and what that site will look at past the recent developments. Secondly, the North End retail environment has changed significantly again. Well, I shouldn't say significantly, it's just one store, but what is the process for evaluation of assessments? Because I looked at a couple of the properties and it is now property taxes have been halved because the assessment has dropped significantly on them. Is there processes for boarding them up and decommissioning and, moving them on? There's now been 2 years on one property, and one was just over the Christmas break, but that is significant public what's going on. These are high visibility. When you come into town, these are the first properties you see, and having them empty is kind of a concerning thing. And then third, you have on future agendas, brew pubs, distilleries, and a couple others ordinances. Brew pubs and such are unique retail environments because they combine the three distribution channels. It's manufacturing, distribution, and retail. And the city does not have a process for state things because most of your regulations are based on liquor licenses and like in restaurants. How do you, like say if I had a food truck or some other type of third-party transient vendor into a business, how is that regulated? if I'm having, that type of things, you really don't have a process because a lot of that is through the liquor laws on your liquor licenses, events, that type of thing. So, the three that we have now are great, but it's kind of important to think of how future ones would interact, having the three different distinct channels. I mean, we have right now in Minnesota, they're looking at changes in their laws for craft brewing because of limitations of growler sales. So with that, I thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Anybody else, Jason, there? Or I'm sorry, not Jason. Sorry, John.
Nope, there's nobody else.
Okay. And then how about on the phone? Anybody call in?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, next we'll move on to the consent agenda. The first thing is a resolution proclaiming World Migratory Bird Day, which would be May 8th of 2021. Next thing is a resolution approving the EMS agreement with the Town of Martell. This resolution would basically give our city attorney and our city administrator permission to talk with Martell if they decide to go down the road of looking at us to help provide them with EMS. Does anybody want to pull anything?
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
I'd like to pull item number 2.
Okay. Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor,
I'll
I move
Yep.
approval of my consent agenda number 2, resolution proclaiming World Migratory Bird Day.
That's the one Hal pulled.
No,
No, 2?
Oh, did you
I'm
pull
sorry.
2?
I pulled the one for the line.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just on my list 2 is the migratory one. Sorry, Hal.
No
Okay,
problem.
sorry, Diane. Go ahead.
I second Diane's motion.
Okay. I get a first and second for the migratory bird resolution. Is there any other comments on this? Christy, I have a first and a second on the resolution proclaiming the World Migratory Bird Day.
First by Odine, second by Morissette. We'll start the vote with Mr. Gagne. Plunkett.
Aye.
Bierstead.
Aye.
Morissette.
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Odine.
Aye.
Watson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, and Mr. Watson, you pulled the resolution approving the EMS with Town of Martell.
Yes. Thank you. I have some questions and a bit of a concern. First, my first question is, I don't understand the rate difference, or I'd like some discussion from staff about why we're charging a different rate we would potentially be charging an additional $2 per capita to the Town of Martell for contract oversight and administration fees, resulting in a $15 per capita rate. And right now we're charging, and that's a different rate than, is that a different rate? I guess that's first my question. Is that a different rate than we're charging the other townships for that same service?
Scott, you want to take this?
It is a different rate.
And why?
We just thought, and it's a pretty small town, so there's not many per capitas to spread the fees, but we just thought we'll have some contract administration costs to kind of get this done midstream that we didn't have with the others, which were all done essentially at the same time.
Okay. I think I would prefer that everybody be charged the same rate. So that's one concern that I've got here. My other concern that I just want to bring to the rest of the council members is, I think I just don't feel comfortable with where we're at right now with giving staff the authority to execute this contract, which is what it says in the resolution. If you look at the resolution in our packet on page 9, under the now therefore it be resolved, we would be authorizing the city administrator and the attorney to finalize and execute an EMS services agreement with Martell, and we would also resolve below to authorize the city administrator to execute an addendum with Alina. So we're kind of saying right here at this moment, we're good to go with this, and all of our concerns are completely taken care of. And I just feel like it's a little bit different, and nothing on you, Mayor. I think we're going a little bit beyond just telling staff, hey, go ahead and have some more conversations with Martell and with Alina and come back to us with whatever it is you guys come up with. You've got a draft. You've got a draft in the packet, or it's marked draft at least in the packet that was out to the public. And so it just seems a little odd to me at this point why we're giving staff the power to execute the agreement. I would instead like to see staff finalize an agreement or pursue an agreement and kind of get the execute part out of this resolution. But I will likely put forward a motion to do that. But I'd like to hear what other council members think about this, or staff, if you don't mind just giving me your thoughts.
Scott, you want to try to answer that question? Or Jason?
Sure. I mean, I'll give you what we understand as staff, but really it's a question for the council, because certainly the council can either provide us authority to do it or not. If you're more comfortable having it come back, you certainly have the ability to do that. In short, we've been asked a favor by a neighbor, and we're trying to facilitate it. So this is not a gain or significant benefit for River Falls. We received the request. The town still has some process to determine what they want to do, and may ultimately decide that they want to continue with their current provider. So we're not looking to negotiate or barter or try to offer some kind of discount or something if they go with us. This was a request that seemed reasonable, and we have provided some service to Martell in the past, and we did make a courtesy call to the village of Ellsworth to see if they had any objections to us having conversations with the town, and they did not. So, or at least their staff did not. So it's a policy question for the council. I would tell you that we've operated under both models in the past with different decisions, contracts. So, and council shouldn't expect that the agreement will look any different than this. We're just using the template we have from the other towns, and there'd still have to be some process on the town's part to determine what they're doing and set the dates and that. But in regards to your other question, council member, respectfully, that's, staff takes no offense. It's up to the council what you want us to do on your behalf or not do on your behalf or bring back to the council. So that's for you all to determine. We I guess presumed that you would be interested in making a decision this evening about your willingness and then having us carry it out.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. Mr. Simpson, at what point does this become a potential burden contracting out?
if no other towns were involved, and Town of Martell was the only one, then it might be a burden. But given the small population and call volume currently, I guess the primary risk would either be some kind of call center, something that generates a bunch of calls but does not generate any population. So that's the primary risk to the city, I suppose, in helping them out.
That $2 per capita fee that would be part of doing this. I know it's for oversight and administrative fees, but how did you come to $2? It makes sense, but could you explain it for people watching?
Jason, do you want to speak to anything related to the math? I mean, I don't think there's any magic to the math. We're looking.
No, there's not necessarily any magic. It just seemed to be a reason in totality, a reasonable amount for the amount of staff work from administration or finance that would go into this through the life of the contract. I guess I do want to point out two things for clarity. Out of that $15, essentially $13 does go to Alina. So when you talk about it, our current rates to the other towns, the $11 versus $19, Alina set those just as they did this $13 rate for Martell. So we didn't necessarily choose to charge them different. That's what Alina is telling us it would cost to provide the services. The $2 add-on, the $2 add-on, if you will, is staff did choose to recommend that. The other thing I guess I would provide for clarity, just in terms of the draft contract, I would just echo what the city administrator said, but I would also remind council that it's the template that you all previously approved for the towns of Troy, Pleasant Valley, Clifton, and the Prescott Association. So it's the legal reviewed template that the attorney had already approved. So that was the intent of using that and providing it as a draft.
Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Jason. Mr. Mayor.
You're muted, Mr. Mayor.
Gagne, then you can go, Ms. Lodine, after Chris.
Okay, thank you.
Jason or Scott Simpson. It looks like in our packet the population of Martell is about 1,213 people. What is the average population of the other towns that we're serving in our contract? Is Martell significantly lower than all the other ones, and is that why it would potentially cost that, drive that cost up a little bit because of the extra overhead to supply that service to them? And then I have a follow-up question.
So Scott may know some population numbers, but I think it is certainly less than the town of Troy and Clifton and Prescott, et cetera. And there is something to be said for the being able to spread the cost across a larger population base. I guess I would, again, there's probably no specific magic that went into the idea of the $2 oversight fee other than it seemed reasonable. But I would add that the $11 per capita rate that the towns currently have and the $19 for the Prescott group, which is higher because they required a specific dedicated ambulance to be located there. I guess I would, for lack of better terminology, I would add is a pretty good deal. And I think that was part of being on board with us from the beginning, I guess almost being grandfathered, if you will. So I think the idea of a starting point of $13 or $15 is probably more in line with what staff would have recommended for those towns, those same towns, if they were coming on board after the fact.
Okay. And what is Martell paying Ellsworth right now to be a part of their ambulance service?
I believe it's a $31 per capita.
So significantly cheaper being in an agreement with us.
The Martell Town Board Supervisor, John Worsing, who initiated the request, I believe he is in attendance in the audience. I did ask that question, Councilman Gagne, before the meeting to make sure I had the right figure. So he told me it was $31.
So that money that would be going to Alina and then the extra time that it's going to take staff to essentially solicit, the ongoing conversations and, any kind of customer service things that we might get even from their residents, not necessarily going directly to their board, because we're essentially providing that service through Alina. I mean, that extra $2 in my mind wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, because we do have extra work that's going on beyond what Alina is going to be doing directly. My follow-up question, I guess, was we see EMS across the board in the nation kind of going out of business because of the extra training costs, and that's why we switched to Liner, right? That's why a lot of these other cities surrounding us are doing the same sort of thing, because it costs so much. We're not getting the return on investment from transport and some of the state funding, as far as some of those insurances. What happens when something similar happens to, if something happened to, say, Ellsworth, and they go out? I mean, what's their options for future service? Are they going to be coming to the city of River Falls and asking to be put in a line of contract? I mean, and is there anything from Ellsworth that says that might happen down the road? So in 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road, we kind of have an idea now of what we're walking into, because we're looking at signing an agreement now with Martell. What's the long-term scope here of other communities around us looking to do the same thing?
Yeah, we're not shopping our services nor Alinas to our neighbors. So I think it's unclear what the future of Ellsworth area ambulance service is going to be, and it's not something that I'm privy to their kind of what their operational strengths or woes are at this point. But it's certainly within the realm of possibility that other villages or towns come and ask to get more information about our arrangement. And at this time, Alina has indicated to us that they're primarily interested in serving the River Falls area, and Prescott has kind of constituted it. I'm not aware of, they certainly haven't nudged us or asked us a lot of questions about Ellsworth and demonstrating an interest there. So I think at this point it's unknown, Chris. And I don't understand if signing the contract or providing this service to this town is going to fold the house in Ellsworth, but I suspect that could impact them. But you're talking about 1,200 per capita, and most of our town, I think Clifton is probably in the 2,000 person population range, so they're smaller. And I think the portion of Pleasant, we have a portion of Pleasant Valley too, right, Jason? So
50%.
That's 50% of Pleasant Valley might be similar to what we're talking about this evening. But they're pretty small comparatively speaking. And again, the $2 is just intended to get something. It's not necessary, and it's not likely to cover the costs of our administration, so to speak, of the contract. It was an attempt to be neighborly, and again, it's not something that the council is required to do at all. It could be a flat no. You're happy with the way things are set up. We're new in our arrangement with Alina, and we'd like to just leave it. And the message back to others could be, you'll have to figure that out on your own. And that's an okay thing too. We don't have a responsibility to resolve the EMS for everybody.
What does Alina say about this agreement? Have they expressed any pros or cons, how it's going to impact them and impact how they're going to service the city of River Falls when their bus is gone for an hour or 2 hours? Probably a lot less than that on average, but if there was and they had to do a transport, I mean, that could be an ambulance away from River Falls for an hour and a half, 2 hours, right?
Yeah, Jason can speak to that, but staff does not believe that this will impact with any significance, the service level to River Falls?
I have specifically discussed that with Alina, and they don't have a concern. They feel that the rural ag nature of Martell, based on the kind of a per 1,000 formula they use, they feel that they may be looking at somewhere in the realm of 2 calls a month on average. So they feel like that would be minimal impact on service delivery. Interestingly, I think a week or two ago, Alina did send an ambulance to the town of Martell as a mutual aid request or coverage request, which certainly does happen. And even if Alina had the town of Martell, it could happen in the opposite way. But that response time was under 12 minutes and 30 seconds. So I think Alina has indicated on a number of occasions they feel comfortable with it, and they wouldn't be willing to bring it on if they weren't. It's worth noting that if you chose to allow the inclusion of the town, it doesn't change or deviate what Alina owes us in terms of performance expectations and service requirements. They still have to meet the same response goals, provide sufficient staffing, and they also would then be contractually bound to meet that response time goals for the town of Martell. So, I think with that, I trust their corporate sense that they're able to do that.
And I think you mentioned something about a 12-minute response, and I think you sent an email based on that wasn't pertaining to this contract to the council that gave us some of the updates and the stats as far as call volumes and stuff like that. And in this agreement, it says something about 17 minutes and 59 seconds. So it looks like they crushed that number.
On that call, I mean, I do want to be careful. There are far reach areas of Martell that they're going to be maxed out to reach within that. But again, looking at the density and the low density or impact of call volume, I think they feel comfortable with that. Yeah. So I'm sorry. The other thing I did want to mention, to your point, I do want council to be aware that, certainly as you bring, if you were to bring on town of Martell, it could be possible that there's an ambulance tied up, for a significant length of time because of a call in Martell. I mean, so that very well could happen. It could increase a transport to Western Wisconsin Health instead of River Falls. It may mean there's a car wreck on 29 in Martell, and the ambulance had to go all the ways out there to get it and then take it to regions, which sometimes happen. I think that's all ingredients in the recipe council should consider, and so it is certainly possible. I think statistically it's not that likely to impact day-to-day service delivery.
If I might, Mayor, ask one more question. Jason or Scott, we're being asked to take on a community under our wing, essentially. And I don't look to publicly put anything out there or any black eye in any community or put any stuff out there. But do you have any knowledge as far as why Martell would want to leave their current service, right? We go into job interviews and people ask, hey, why did you leave your last job, or on your application? Same sort of thing here, right? Why do we have any kind of knowledge why they'd want to be exiting and soliciting service with us again?
That's probably best answered by the town or its officials. I mean, I think.
Do we have anybody from Martell available?
So we do. I think. I believe we do. We had Town Supervisor John Wersing in attendance in the audience. I'm not sure if he's still there or not. John Smits, is he still there? Yep, I see him there.
Yes, I'm John Wersing. I'm supervisor of the Township Martell. And I think that the rationale that we have for the decision to investigate the possibility of moving to River Falls ambulance service is very similar to the document that was placed before the council as it related to the River Falls EMS services. The costs continue to rise, the income continues to go down, and I sit on the Ellsworth Ambulance Service Operating Committee, And there is, in my opinion, some reluctance to address those issues in a timely fashion. Capital reserves for the association have been falling. We are making that up by continuing to bump the per capita, and we are already up to 31. Increasing the per capita for a small town.
John, we lost the numbers.
Looks like we've lost City Hall.
Yeah.
Yeah, we lost all of City Hall. We lost Scott and Jason as well.
Yep, must not have paid our bill. Now let's give him a second here to catch back up.
John, are you still there?
Try getting that AT&T internet, maybe.
I think they service about 5 meg internet last time I checked.
About 0 now. I do have AT&T, and it was junking out on me in the beginning.
Oh, let's see. Send him a quick text here.
Mr. Mayor, might I suggest that you put us in recess for 5 minutes and
Yeah,
we all
let's do
mute
that.
and darken our screens and just
Yeah.
so we don't have any inadvertent conversation.
Right.
Oh, wait a minute.
Not the mayor. Oh, he's back.
You back, John?
Yeah, we never left.
Yeah, we lost you guys. We lost everybody at City Hall.
Yeah, we heard.
Now we've got a terrible echo.
Yeah.
So can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I think the biggest reason that we're looking to join the River Falls group is the status of the Alina system is fantastic. My role in the county is as the Pierce County Medical Examiner, and I get to deal with Alina at the hospital very frequently. We're quite impressed with the medical direction there. We've had experience with the ambulance service here in River Falls and in Prescott. And we feel that it would be a significant attribute for our township people to utilize that service for their EMS functions.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, might I ask?
Yep. Hang
Mr.
on. Hang on 1 second. Diane
Okay.
was up next.
I was, and some of my questions have been answered, I think. But just so I understand the situation we're in here, we're essentially acting as administrators of this contract and doing a favor for a neighbor who wants to piggyback onto this contract. So from what Mr. Stroud said, it sounds like an extra $2 per capita is not even going to cover our staff expenses for the administrative negotiating with both Martell and Alina to fold them into the contract. So I see that as and certainly hearing about Martell's current costs, I don't see that as prohibitive. They're sometimes there's an economy of scale and they're a small town. So, but it sounds like this would be a great benefit for them. And it sounds like Alina has no qualms about folding Martell into the contract. So I'm entirely comfortable with giving our staff the authority to, do this kind of administrative negotiation and get them on board.
Okay. And Mr. Morissette?
Yeah, I apologize, Ms. O'Dean. I was really just going to slip in a quick question to Mr. Worsing, if I could.
Yep.
And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I know in discussions with the Assistant City Administrator Stroud, currently your level of service from Ellsworth is BLS. Is that correct? Basic life support? And
No,
we would provide ALS?
No, Ellsworth Ambulance is an ALS service.
Oh, okay. Thank you for clarifying. Thank you.
Councilman Moore said, I think that was Spring Valley we were talking about.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. Sorry for misquoting that. Just a couple of quick comments. You know, I think we're all having to go through the paradigm shift of this isn't the River Falls EMS service anymore. This is now Alina. And to Jason's comment before, you know, if we have a situation, and we can play the what if game all day long, if we have a situation where we have to send an ambulance and it's out for service or whatever, our expectation is that Alina figures out how to fill the gap. That's what our contract is doing for us. This isn't city staff going, uh-oh, I got to call Hudson and get somebody to come halfway down. I got to do this or that. This is Alina's situation to solve. Is my point. So I think while we're all used to having that sense of ownership, we've got to pull back a little bit here and say we trust Alina. The reason I'm comfortable with this, and Jason and I have had a couple of conversations regarding this, as the former EMS board representative or council rep to the board, I had questions. Some of the questions were about pricing. Questions were about, is this the right price? If we add other towns, you know, what does that look like? How does that look? The thing that gives me the most comfort here is that Alina has looked at this and says, yeah, we can do it. And if they've said it, I take them at their word, and I think that they can, you know, fulfill what they're saying they can do. So I have no problems with that shift towards Alina. With regard to the contract and negotiating it, if this were a larger dollar amount than $15,789, I may have some concerns about, hey, let's put an extra step in here. But if I'm not mistaken, Scott, you got we granted you $25,000 in purchasing power, purchasing authority as the city administrator. Not that this is the same, but there's, you know, we're kind of inside that $25,000 limit that exists for other decisions. I guess I would say, not that this is a purchasing decision, but I guess I'd provide that. Is that correct? Before I go on,
It's 50,000.
it's 50,000. Okay, so I was shorting you even 25 grand more. So,
but to be fair, I mean, this is a multi-year contract, so it's, you know,
understood.
15,000 times 5. But
yeah, understood. But I think the analogy is a good one, that we've asked you to make decisions, and that's where it's at. I think the last point I want to make is, you know, we're already granting mutual aid to the town of Martell, and to a certain extent, we're providing them service anyway. And again, you know, here's the same thing Jason and I talked about. I just used the word we. It's not we. It's Alina. And we've got to kind of get out of that we mentality a little bit and step back a half a step as a council and say, this is Alina. True, we're the grand master of the contract. But at this point, you know, this is sort of administrative. It flows through. And I think we've got to trust that Alina is comfortable with it. And I have no concerns about moving forward, giving staff that authority. If something were to significantly change, having worked with Mr. Simpson for 10 years, I am confident he'd come back and say, hey, just so you know, this changed. So I guess I'm comfortable moving forward with what's proposed. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yep, go ahead, Mr. Gagne.
I agree with both Alderman Watson and Morissette. You know, I do have full confidence in Jason Stroud and Administrator Scott Simpson, and any of the doings that we've done so far. They haven't proven me wrong, and not come back to us. That said, you know, Alina is accountable to us, and we're accountable to those townships at the end of the day. If it was just them coming to Alina, I wouldn't have a problem with that. So, you know, I see both sides of that coin. I would, and I would like to get some feedback from other council members. I would like this to come back to us as for a final approval. My question to Jason or Scott Simpson, what kind of timeline do you have before this really needs to be approved for the town board? Maybe the town board can pipe in there as far as what meetings they have to go through and processes they have to go through before you guys can even solidify an agreement. So do we have a hard stop date of, okay, this is when it would be approved? So we could think about maybe it comes back to us on the 26th or the 9th for a final approval if there was an amendment.
I think we just lost the city council on our end.
We lost all city hall.
Or excuse me, city hall again.
City hall again.
They may be able to hear us, but we can't hear them.
We can't see or hear them.
Right.
Oh, we can see them. A couple of them.
They're just frozen on the screen.
Yep. We'll give them a second here.
Last time it took 2 minutes.
Yeah.
John, can you hear us?
Oh, there they go.
Yes, I can hear you.
You just came back. So did you guys hear my question?
So it's interesting.
And Gagne, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's interesting because Teams was working, but it's WebEx that is from our end causing an issue. So I'm not sure why, but
okay. We'll keep working through it.
All right.
Did hear the question. I think, and I certainly will defer to Supervisor Worsing, who's still in attendance. And my understanding is, well, you know what? Let me defer to him from the beginning in that way. I'll add if I need to. Supervisor Worsing, would you mind speaking to the timeline?
I'd be happy to. If we gain your approval this evening to proceed with this, we have a variety of things within the township that we have to do. First and foremost, then, the town will have to have a meeting and make a resolution to officially move this contract negotiation forward. We have to have a discussion with the Pierce County Sheriff's Department on how long it will take the dispatch group to change the 911 numbers so that it would go to River Falls EMS versus going to Ellsworth EMS. Right now, that appears that it would be about a 2 to 4 month time frame to get those transitions taking place. Our goal would be to get a contract negotiated with you all's approval in the next month or two, with a start date as soon as we get a date from dispatch. So if dispatch says it would be the 1st of May, we get the contract to become effective on the 1st of May. If they say it's the 1st of June, it's whatever date dispatch comes up with for when we could make that decision to go that direction. We also have to, if we get approval here, we're also obligated to go to Ellsworth Ambulance and extricate ourselves from that agreement. So we've got those things that have to occur essentially simultaneously. This was the first step in the process from our perspective.
So from an approvals perspective, what point would you be able to give us a yes, we're on board and we'll sign an agreement to get that process started?
If we hear from you tonight, we have a board meeting that's going on right now and I'm trying to get back out to it. We would probably know almost immediately that they want to go ahead with the negotiation.
Okay.
So realistically, we could have something signed within the next couple weeks from the board back to us.
We may have to have another board meeting so we get it on the action agenda. And I'm sure that they'll want to have Mr. Loberg, who's our attorney, take a look at the document. I don't see any problem with it. I've read through it. We've got a couple of minor issues in there, not so much issues, but timing, giving an opportunity for River Falls to reassess the amount of effort that Alina had to put in to support Martell at maybe halfway through the contract. Jason can speak to those sorts of things. And, but overall, it's just a matter of how fast can we move and meet our requirements as a town board to get things done appropriately. But yes, my goal would be, geez, by the end of February, we would actually have a signed contract that we would know and we'd be going forward.
So do you have any reason why you wouldn't have a problem with a final contract coming back to city council for our approval? Like just
I would have, speaking purely for myself, but I think also for the board, I would have no problem after negotiating with Jason and Scott, the final contract, having it come back to the board and having you approve that final contract. I can see no reason that that would be problematic from our perspective.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Worsing. Hal, you had a question.
Yes, and thank you for being here, Mr. Worsing. I really appreciate this. So I just want to make sure I heard you right. You do plan then on having some kind of public meeting beyond tonight when you get back for the town of Martell residents to get a chance to weigh in on all this?
The Ellsworth ambulance issue is already on the agenda for this month and has been on the agenda for the last 3 months.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to amend or actually, we don't have it on the floor yet, do we?
No.
So I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda item number 2.
Second.
Okay. We got a first and a second. Any other questions? Hal, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a second motion to amend the resolution. And give me just 1 second here. This is the resolution on page 9 of our packet. In the clause, now therefore be it resolved, I would like to strike the 2 words "and execute" so that that clause reads, now therefore be it resolved that the River Falls Common Council authorizes the city administrator and city attorney to finalize an EMS services agreement with the town of Martell. And then I would also include in that amendment to strike the last clause, be it further resolved that the council authorizes the city administrator to execute the addendum. I'd like to have those 2 things brought back to the city council at a future date after this negotiation that is under discussion has taken place.
Second.
Okay. Got a first and a second on the amendment. Is there any other discussion? Go ahead, Ms. Odine.
I guess, can someone explain to me why we need to see it again? I mean, what if we've got a negotiated, I mean, do we want to renegotiate with Martell? I mean, I guess I'm not seeing how we as a city council, what we might want to change about what Martell is willing to agree to.
Diane, if I might step in, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, go ahead, Mr. Gagne.
My justification for seconding that and saying what I did is we're accountable to the taxpayers of the city of River Falls first and foremost. We are the administrators of this plan. So Alina is essentially accountable to us first and foremost, and we're accountable to the townships. And that's the way that contract is written. If anything goes down, them townships are coming back to us because it's our contract, not Alina.
And then we go back to Alina. I mean, the obligations in this are primarily Alina's obligations. And if Alina, well,
we don't have a contract. We don't have an agreement. What's on paper today isn't final. And it says it in this resolution that they still need to work out the finite details. $15,000 over the course of a couple of years and all the little nitty gritties, I'd love for that to come back to us as elected officials, not an appointed city administrator. I'd love that to come back to us, make that final decision. I have full confidence that the 2 city administrator, Jason Stroud and Scott Simpson, could do this themselves, but being elected and being responsible to my constituents. I just want to make sure I have a final sight on it before I say yes.
My one, that those $15 are not ours. Those are not our constituents' dollars. The $2 in administrative fees, that is River Falls, but the rest is Martell's.
Who are those people accountable to?
My understanding of this is we're essentially just a pass through with them getting this service. So I will be a no vote on this amendment.
Mr. Mayor, if I might.
Yep, go ahead, Mr. Morissette.
I mean, this is the same language we used with the towns in the agreement. This is boilerplate language that we used already. Now, I appreciate Mr. Waring say that, you know, they want their attorney to look at it, but I don't see that we're going to have a lot of back and forth at all, if anything, with what we've already approved. And, you know, again, I think for the pass through amount and for the contract to be already tested or approved by, so I'm comfortable. I'm with Ms. Odine. I'm a no on the amendment, and I appreciate the concern by the other council members, but I think this is a situation where we can hand it to staff and move on. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments on the amendment?
I appreciate, Mr. Mayor, may I say something?
Yep, go ahead, Mr. Downing.
I appreciate the amendment. Whether I agree with it 100% or not, it makes a lot of sense because it gives us an opportunity to see what went on in the negotiations and ensure the people who elected us to show that we are acting in good faith. I trust that they could probably do this fine, but then again, there's always something that could go wrong. We just don't know the finite details until they're in front of us. So I do appreciate the amendment. I'll be voting in favor of it. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else on the amendment? Okay, Christy, we have a first and a second on the amendment.
A first by Watson, a second by Gagne. We'll start the voting with Mr. Watson.
Aye.
Okay. I'm sorry, is that an aye? Thank you. Bierstedt.
No.
Morissette.
No.
Gagne.
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Odine.
No.
4-3 in favor.
Okay. Then we got a first and second on the original resolution approving the EMS agreement.
First by Mr. Watson, a second by Gagne. Start the voting with Morissette.
Aye.
Watson.
Aye.
Plunkett. Gagne.
Aye.
Odine.
Aye.
Bierstedt.
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Christy. Next, move on to administrator's report. Scott, if you got something for us?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. It's John. I just wanted to thank the council and you and Scott and Jason for your support. Really appreciate it from the town of Martell. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Worsing. Okay, administrator's report.
Thank you, Mayor. While you're thinking of your questions, we've had some holidays observed with the city. That was good for a number of us, I guess, to recharge. Recalling that we do have employees working 365, so I appreciate the nature of our work and that not everybody got to have Christmas off, including a number of our public works staff this year, in addition to police officers and utility workers who are working on those days every year. So it was nice to ring in the new year, and certainly we're off and running on our planning, primarily doing a lot of planning at this time of year. Did have the opportunity on behalf of the city council and the mayor to have a listening session with nonprofits today, which was always good perspective for me to hear how things are going. And as you'd expect, there's there's mixed results across the nonprofit community as far as, you know, revenues and other things going on in their world. Some experiencing some pretty happy moments and others having some challenging moments, but certainly they're filling an important need in the community for us, and I thank them on your behalf. So I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have. I've indicated to the council that we are planning to move towards phase 1 in the Crushing COVID plan. We likely will start making some of those small steps next week as we're able, and we continue to monitor the data. If everything kind of holds where it's at now, we should be able to move a little bit more towards that, and working on getting some walk-in hours back for City Hall. It's likely that other facilities will not have walk-in hours, including the library, anytime soon, until we can kind of get into that phase 2, later into phase 2, which we'll have to see how the vaccination progress goes and if the numbers continue to kind of hold. Numbers aren't great, but they're certainly much better than they were in mid-November. So happy to take any questions you might have.
Scott, did you have anything else?
Nope, that would be it.
Okay. I just got a couple announcements here. I got some appointments I'd like to make. I'd like to reappoint Jolene Larson through December of 2023 to the bid board. On the Board of Appeals, I'd like to reappoint Eric Amundson through December of 2024. And I'd like to reappoint Andrew Brown through February of 2024. On the Historic Preservation Commission, I'd like to reappoint Pam Freedy through January 2024. On the Park and Rec Advisory Board, I'd like to make the new appointment of Matt Chicart through May of 2024, who will be replacing Susan Reese. And on the Police and Fire Commission, I'd like to reappoint Gary Donna through April of 2026.
I move
Mr. Mayor,
approval.
make a motion, we approve your appointments.
Second.
I have a first and a second on my appointments. Any questions? Christie, I have a first and a second on my appointments.
First by Mr. Watson, or excuse me, by Mr. Morissette, second by Watson. We'll start the vote with Mr. Bierstadt.
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Downing, I'm sorry.
Aye.
Thank you. Plunkett.
Having internet trouble here, so I actually missed the hearing those appointments.
Would you like me to read them again?
Greatly appreciate that, Mr. Mayor.
They're in the packet.
Yep.
Okay, so that is the ones that were listed in the packet with the letters.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Putting aye on those. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Bodine.
Aye.
Gagne.
Aye.
Watson.
Aye.
Morissette.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christy. Okay, and the last thing I got is I have a proclamation for Big Brothers, Big Sisters Thank You Mentor Day, which is January 29th, 2021. Whereas every child deserves to achieve their full potential in life, and whereas one-to-one mentoring relationships through Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Northwestern Wisconsin ignites the power and promise of youth, and whereas children with a mentor set higher goals for themselves, and whereas children with a mentor are less likely to use drugs and alcohol, and whereas children with a mentor are more likely to reach higher levels of education, and whereas each year hundreds of caring adults volunteer their time to better the lives of children in our communities as mentors, and whereas 2021 marks the 20th year celebrating January as National Mentoring Month. And now, therefore, I, Dan Tolan, Mayor of the City of River Falls, do hereby proclaim January 29th, 2021 as as Big Brothers, Big Sisters Thank You Mentor Day and urge everyone in River Falls to thank their mentors and those who made a positive impact on their lives while they grew up. That's it.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Chris, do we have a first and a second on adjourning?
We start the vote with Mr. Plunkett. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yep, aye.
Odine,
Aye.
Watson,
Aye.
Gagne,
Aye.
Morissette,
Aye.
Downing,
Aye.
Bierstead.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate everybody showing up and doing the work. Thanks, John. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Christy.
Thank you, everyone.